week on commandN, Google in your pocket, Japanese girls go crazy for virtual avatars, and how to dress up your laptop. Welcome to episode 150 of commandN. I'm Amber.
I'm Will Pate.
And we're back together again.
150, woo!
I know, it's hard to believe. We were saving 150 just for you, Will.
Aw, thank you.
Very nice of us. So how have things been going?
Really good. I've been busy working, hanging out with Beta, watching The Wire, so.
These are all very good things.
Oh, yeah.
And as you can see, you have a hat on and I have a scarf on because it's fall, but it's getting a little chilly here.
We're trying out new fashions for the fall.
What do you think? Let us know in the comments. All right, let's talk about the tech headlines of the week. Our first headline this week is about Google's Android phone, which has been released. It's going to be available on T-Mobile. It's going to be available in October in the US. So pretty exciting. I've taken a look at some of the videos and we've been talking about it for a while. And because it has a little keyboard, a QWERTY keyboard, I think it's going to give the iPhone a run for its money.
It reminds me of the Hip Top 2, which was my favorite phone before my iPhone. So
now you have an iPhone. Do you think there's a chance that you might switch?
Well, I needed an iPhone at the time, and I'm in Canada, so I'm locked into this like 3-year contract now. Maybe like I'll give them my firstborn or something, and they'll let me go, but we'll see.
I hear they make you do that.
Yeah, it's gonna be something like that, I think.
Yeah, on eBay or something.
Yeah.
Some weird deal. And also to do with the Android phone, the Android market.
Yeah, they've launched the Android marketplace, and it's really interesting. It's going to be a very open alternative to the Apple iPhone store. And there's been a lot of complaints of developers, there's stuff not getting approved in time or just getting kicked out entirely, the kind of secretive process. And it looks like Google is trying very much to try and take a different approach and be very open and make it much easier. So we'll see how the two strategies work.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I mean, I'm always fascinated by the walled garden approach within the iPhone App Store. But, I think there is something to be said for being a little more open. So we'll see what happens over time.
Game on.
Now, speaking of being open, the Washington Post has announced that they are now linking out to other news organizations for their political coverage. So the idea is that they've really kind of torn down those walls and they're acting a little bit more like bloggers. And I think this is great news because so often in news organizations, they're trying to really protect their content. They don't want to promote competitors. But finally, they're saying, hey, you know what? We realize that this can help us get traffic, help them, and it's a new mentality.
I think it's really smart. It seems to me like one of those things they should have done years ago, but I understand where they're coming from, so I understand why it took them a while. It makes a lot of sense. Like I go to Reddit and Dig and places like that for all my politics news, which I read every day because I'm kind of like a political junkie, right?
Me too.
But, I wouldn't go to, say, CNN or another news site first because I know I'm only going to get their stuff, but now this gives me an incentive to check out other news organizations at the same time. So
exactly, it's kind of like the best of the web, so I think it's good for all of us.
Absolutely.
And there's a new report that's come out that has to do with text messaging.
Yeah, well, for the first time ever, Americans are now sending more text messages than making calls. And that's actually a really huge thing because up until a couple of years ago, the usage of SMS in the States was actually really, really low, especially compared to the rest of the world. And the interesting thing is it was actually American Idol that turned it around. They started doing the text message voting for American Idol. People started picking it up, and now it's as popular or more popular than making phone calls.
Yeah, you know what? I have to say, I would rather text message anyone than actually get on the phone and spend time on the phone. Sorry, Will. But this is the reality. My brother Jeff just sent us a link to a movie that was just released by Michael Moore. Now, the interesting thing about this movie, Slacker Uprising, is that it's completely free for anyone to use on their website, on their blog, to show in local theaters. So the idea is he really wants to get this movie, which obviously has a political message, out there to as many people as possible. So he's saying, hey, take it, do with it what you want. You can also buy the DVD for $9.95. But he really wants to spread the movie around on the web, and it'll be interesting to see how many people watch it online.
I bet it'll be pretty high. He actually announced that he was going to do this with his next movie when he was promoting his last movie. And I guess we should say the movie is about getting young people out to register to vote.
If you will do this, my slacker friends, I will give you a full day's supply of the sustenance of slackers everywhere, ramen noodles.
So if you're a commandN viewer in the States, you've got about 2 weeks left. Register to vote. We don't really care who you're going to vote for. Just get out there and register, and then get it done.
And watch the movie.
Yeah.
Very important. Now you have some news about Japanese schoolgirls. Am I right about this?
I think it's like Japanese teenagers, but the
Okay.
story. This is a story I saw on TechCrunch. It was really interesting because it's kind of about how behavior changes with technology. And what's happening is there's these sites where essentially these girls play these online games to try and woo the affection of a virtual boyfriend, and it's apparently becoming super popular, and this kind of new fad in Japan. And it's kind of interesting to see how, you know, if you look at like the traditional dating site, it's like hooking people up and stuff like that. Or, you know, there's always the sites where, you know, like young guys will go and look at pretty girls. But these are more like interactive, where the girls are playing games where they're trying to win the attention and the affection of these young male avatars that they want to be their virtual boyfriends.
Wow, that is fascinating.
It's neat.
I need to check that one out for sure.
Hi, I'm Jeff MacArthur, here with this week's Tech Tips. Now everybody seems to have reams and reams of music on their hard drives nowadays, and if you want to reduce your audio file sizes, you're first faced with one very important question. Do you want to use lossy or lossless audio compression? So MP3, the most popular audio format out there by far, is a lossy file format. That means that you can actually lose some of your audio sound quality when you make something into an MP3 file. And this obviously depends on the bit rates you use and all this sort of stuff. But the point is that once you encode an MP3, you can never get back to that pure audio source file that you started from. If you want to keep that original quality, you'll have to use a lossless format. And that means it's going to be a larger file. Basically, lossless compression will typically result in 55 to 60% of the source file size, whereas lossy compression can get as low as 5 to 20% of the original file size. And it does this by discarding less critical data. So although it may seem that you'd lose a ton of sound quality with lossy file compression, they use psychoacoustics and some noise shaping and all of these different techniques to really reflect the sounds most easily heard by the human ear. So this reduces the loss considerably. And not all lossy encodings are created equal either. AAC encoding, for example, typically sounds better at the same bit rates than MP3 encoding will. Now the problem is, once you've done a single round of lossy compression, as I was saying, you can never get that quality back. Whereas with lossless compression, you can transcode to any other lossless format and still have the same sound quality as the original source. That's why lossless encoding is great for archiving audio. And you can always make lossy files from your lossless files if the need arises. So there's a lot of lossless file formats out there for audio, and although you may not have heard of many of them, here are a few of the top ones. First of all, FLAC, Free Lossless Audio Codec. Very popular cross-platform codec. It's got good hardware and software support, and it's also multi-channel to boot, so that's pretty cool. You may have heard of Monkey's Audio, or APE, APE. Again, very popular and cross-platform, although a little slower encoding, decoding than FLAC is, and not as good hardware and software support. And the Apple Lossless Audio Codec, which I mentioned because it's the preferred lossless codec for iPods. It's multi-channel, but it's Windows and Mac only. So if you aren't concerned by what particular device these can play back on, then there's no harm in trying out other lossless codecs, as you can switch between them and not lose any quality. Finally, just a closing note to say that if you are using a lossy format for music, and most of us are, I'd recommend using bit rates in the 192 to 256 kilobit per second range. The old 128 kilobit per second standard just sacrifices too much sound quality in my ears. Anyway, that's all for this week. I'm Jeff MacArthur. Enjoy.
Our web picks this week are sponsored by GoDaddy. If you go to GoDaddy, you can sign up for any of their services. You get an extra 10% off if you enter the promo code commandN. That's the number 1 and the number 0. And remember that anything you get off of GoDaddy is up to 70% less than the competition.
Now it's time for our fancy pants web picks of the week. What do you have this week, Amber?
I know you were trying to hold it together when you were saying that. I love it. My web pick this week is a site called jealousskins.com. It sells these amazing covers for your laptop, whether it's a Mac or PC. I absolutely love them. They also sell covers for your iPhone. And the idea is that they are designed by real artists, so you can get very creative. I'm using one right now on my MacBook Air. Kind of protects the back of it, and it looks cool.
They look beautiful.
You have to get one, Will.
I'm going to, and they're Toronto local, right?
Yes, as far as I know.
Awesome.
All good, all good. So check them out at jealousskins.com. And Will, you have some hacks for us.
Yes, my web pick this week is a series of 8 hacks you can use to make Firefox faster. We all love fast browsing. We all love Firefox, so here's a way to get more of those beautiful things together.
Yes, fast browsing is where it's at. Where it's at. I have that song in my head right now. All right, so before I start singing, we should probably wrap up the show. And
Cut or make.
Yes, exactly. And say that if you have any comments, you can leave them at commandN.tv. And it's our 150th episodes. We're, not really doing anything special to celebrate because we just had our 3-year anniversary. But good job, Will. Maybe I can get the Obama bump.
Woo!
Nice work. All right, see you soon. I didn't know what to do. I was like, maybe do something lame. I am like Miss Corny. I really should be on a cornball show. That's why people used to call me Marsha Brady, because they're like, you would totally Marsha Brady. I